Do the Maimer in Chelik Daled Meluket, the Rebbe's Maimorim. This is the volume 4. This is the 10th Maimer. The Rebbe said this Maimer on Wednesday of the portion of Pנחas was the 16th day of Tmuz. And the Maimer is Ach Begorel Yachlek הארץ in the Tafshin Lamed Hey. In the Star, it says that it was published at the time on Tuesday Shuch Balbeki Tov, in the Parshas Matis Masei Tovshin Hey Tovshin Lamed Hey. So it was published shortly thereafter. Let's do the Maimer inside. Ach Bagoyrel Yecholek Haretz, which is the pasuk in Pנחas that the land will be distributed, divided up by a lottery. The Rebbe points out in the note that is in the shiur of Tuesday, and that week in Parshas Pנחas, that's the connection to the Begorel Yecholek Haretz. And by the way, this is also the time we're learning it on the it's actually Tuesday, Parshas Pנחas, not Wednesday. And over there, we learn about, the Rebbe says in the note, about all the laws that, how the inheritance depends on those who exited Mitzrayim. And that is talking about, that's on Wednesday, the next day. That's the day that the Maimer was talked about. Basically, the Maimer is going to discuss the three ways Eretz Yisrael was divided. Goyrel is a lottery. It was also done al pi Hashem, and also it was done logically. L'rav tar benachlosi v'lama'at tamid nachlosi. So it had all three ingredients, as the Rebbe will explain, how the land was divided up. So let's go. So the pasuk says that you will divide the land by a lottery, by a goyrel. Chalukas eretz hakodesh. That is the way the Holy Land will be divided. Shakovshu eretz Canaan. They conquered, they captured the land of Canaan. Va'osu oiso eretz Yisrael, and they made her, the land of Canaan, into the land of Eden. Va'ad, to the extent she'oid b'hiyois b'nei Yisrael b'midbar, even before they actually conquered it, while they were still in the desert. Terem Shabol Eretz Yisrael, before they came to Eretz Yisrael, Nemar Oleho, it's said about the land of Canaan, about the future Eretz Yisrael, Eretz Asher Goimer Eine Hashem Elekecha Bo Mereshis Hashona V'Adach Rishona, the land which Hashem's eyes are there from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, the special divine supervision, the eyes of Hashem in Eretz Yisrael. This is in the Parshas Eikev, which is before the Yidden actually conquered Eretz Yisrael in the Chumash. So, so that takes place at that point, before conquering. So it says, Mevayer Asher Chalukas Eretz HaKodesh. How did they divide the Holy Land? It was based on the lottery. Then and added to this lottery, it says, also in the pasuk, it says al pi Hashem. That's in the pasuk of Yeshua, Perik Yutes. Over there it says it was also done not just Begorel like in our parsha, it says al pi Hashem. Umefarish Rashi, and Rashi in our parsha brings it down that it was done Baruch HaKodesh, so that is a Goyrel, and there was also Ruach HaKodesh. But then there was an additional, so an additional to the lottery, which is not logical. It is a lottery. It just seems to be a just by chance. And then you have also Api Hashem, which is the name of Hashem. That's by the mouth of Hashem. Then you also have the logical, the one who is more people gets a larger part, and the one that less people get less. That's the idea of logic. There was another aspect in the dividing of the land. It was larav tarbe nachalose b'lama'at tamid nachalose, to the tribe that had more people. You increased the inheritance; you got a bigger portion. Ulama'at tamid nachalose, and the tribe that had less got a smaller inheritance. So that's is a logical shehu inyan al pi seichel. So this would mean that the land was divided according to the intellect. Of course, we will talk about conquering the land with inside the person, overcoming the 7 nations, and how need to employ the various levels in the soul in order to conquer the api hagoyrel, api havaya, and also according to the seichel. Now, this is not so clear. What is the exact shot of l'rav tarbe nachalose, l'ma'at tamid nachalose, whether it really is talking about the people, which would mean a logical. But the Rebbe is going to discuss now that this is actually a debate between the Ramban and Rashi, and some people say that Rashi also agrees to the Ramban. But the Rebbe says in Pshat, it means, as Rashi says, what is the simple meaning to the larger tribe? You increase the inheritance. That's as Rashi explains. Rashi al HaTorah Rashi's explanation on the Torah, that's the simple meaning of the pasuk. So Rashi says, if we had a tribe which had a lot of people, they gave a larger pot. You didn't divide equally all into 12 parts for the 12 shvatim, for the 12 parts, 12 shvatim that inherited, but rather they got larger part. The chalukazu, this is a logical. So the Rebbe wants to be also logical. The Rebbe brings down that the Ramban disagrees with Rashi. Hagam, the Ramban Polygal said, the Ramban disagrees. He says that they were all equal parts. And there's also other commentaries in Rashi who also believe that Rashi doesn't really mean that you gave the more a larger part. It depends by the Yetzer Mitzrayim or when they went to Eretz But the bottom line is they also disagree that Rashi says that it was a logical distribution, that they divided logically. But the Rebbe says, Rashi, we see that the Ramban who disagrees on Rashi, he says that this is what Rashi means. Ramban mefarish kavonas Rashi kipshote. He explains Rashi's meaning simply, literally. Vafilu Ramban, even according to the Ramban, and also according to these commentaries that they say even Rashi holds like the Ramban. So maybe so we don't see a logical distribution over there because that's not what it means. So the fact alone that according to their commentary, the pasuk needed to negate that we should not divide it logically, Muchach sheyesh lechaluka zu shayichus la'aseichel. So it's evident that it has a connection to seichel. The Rebbe basically wants to establish, even though that practically it was not divided logically by the more got more and the one that had less, but the fact that the Torah is negating, according to their pshat, negating that means there's a connection to logic. But that's not what we're gonna discuss now, as the Rebbe said. We're discussing, according to Rashi, that the actual distribution was also logical. Mainly that which is discussed over here, upashtus, hakosuv, upashtus, pirush Rashi, vasifri, the simple meaning in the Pasik and the simple meaning in Rashi and the Sifri. Shachaluka hoiso lefi mispar ha'anoshim, that the dividing up was by the amount of people. That's illogical. The more people you get, each one should get a bigger piece. That tribe should get a bigger part because it has more people. Shehi chaluka al pi seichel, which is dividing according to seichel. The bottom line, what do we have from this nimtza? So it turns out shebechalukas haaretz hoyu gimel inyonim. There were three aspects. There was api goydel, lottery, api ruach hakodesh, and api seichel hamuvan gam benefesh hasichlis, and also logically that was understood also to the intellectual soul, understanding the dividing. And all these three inyonim were there by the dividing of the land. So first the Rebbe is going to explain what is the level of goydel and that's the etzem haneshama. When we say begoydel techolika haaretz, means that the etzem haneshama is the one that helps to conquer the land. Let's look inside base. The idea of the dividing the land by the lottery, the Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, explains, al Maimer Kveit Kedushas Adbur Hazoket. This is based on the Maimer of the Alter Rebbe. Bamesh Omar Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, to explain this, the Gemara says that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said before he was passing away that he was crying, and he said the reason he's crying because Eini Yodeya be'ezu derech melichin oisi, Gemara in Brachas, that he doesn't know in which direction, on which path they lead him, whether he's led to Gan Eden or he's led to Gehenna. And this seems to be a very perplexing statement. Such a great tzaddik and rabbi and scholar, a Tana like Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who always learned, why would he cry and not know which path he's going to be led? This seemingly is surprising. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai loy holach daled ames beleit Torah beleit tefillin. The Gemara in Sukkah says that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai never went 4 cubits without studying Torah and without wearing tefillin. And further, we find in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah that Upei Shana Lomad V'limed Torah, that for 40 years, for 80 years, he studied and he taught Torah. That's the great sage he was. So what place is there for a doubt, for a question, which path they're going to lead him? So that's the question that is brought down in the Alter Rebbe's Maimer and the Tzemach Tzedek. The Alter Rebbe explains that the question comes because of the essence of the soul. That is the level of the soul which is higher than reason and rationale. He said, I don't know. He didn't know what the essence of his soul was. On the level of Tam Vadas, he knew, of course, that he was a tzaddik, he did the right thing, but he still didn't know where his essence is. I don't know. That's why he said it. Even though he occupied himself with Torah, etc. The fact that he occupied himself in Torah is a concept which is connected to reason. That's logic. That only involves his level of Tam Vadas, but this doesn't have any proof to the level that's higher than Tam Vadas. But we have to say, even though it's a level that's higher than Tam Vadas, it still has some connection that the person would be going to Gehenna for that. It still has to have some connection. Even this level. Since reward and punishment applies to that level of Etzem HaNefesh, because we see it, he says, he doesn't know. That has to do because he didn't know the Etzem HaNefesh. That's understood from the fact alone that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says, I don't know in which direction, which road, on which path they lead me. So you see that it's, if his Etzem HaNefesh is not proper, he would be going not to Gan Eden, going the other direction. So why would a person be responsible for things that he has no control over? It's something which is in the subconscious. So that is evident. Muchach mizeh. So from this it's evident. Sheyesh efshoriyus v'yicholos. There is a possibility. There is a opportunity, and you have the right. You're allowed to. L'chol odom nesuna, for each person has been given gam benegei lebchina zusha benefesh. Also, as it touches, as it connects to the level of the nefesh, which is higher than Tam Vadas, you are still responsible because you have the opportunity to make sure that that's in the right direction. Also, behainu. So that means. So how does it, but it's not within the Tam Vadas. Sheyesh avodah kazu, there is such a type of a service shepa'elas gam be'etzem hanefesh that also impacts the essence of the soul. V'she'al yodo tia kideboyi, and when you do that avodah through her hand, through the avodah, that type of avodah, the Etzem HaNefesh is going to be, to that level, the soul is going to be Kideboyi, is going to be as necessary. This level of the soul, and also the service that is connected to this level, that's called the Goydel. So based on this, that Tzemach Tzedek explains the idea of dividing the land based on the Goydel, that the dividing of the land in Avodas Hashem is associated to the level of the Etzem HaNeshama, which is called the Goydel, Gimel. And now we're going to go and explain these three levels that we mentioned earlier as they pertain to the service of the person. Gimel. So explaining now the connection of these three items. Hagoyrel benefesh, the We have the goyrel, the way it's in the soul. We're talking about the etzem and nefesh. Uba'avodas ha'odom, then we say the person's work that impacts the etzem and nefesh. Ubachalukas ha'aretz, and the goyrel, that the distribution of the land. I said Gimel Advarim, the three goyrel, Hashem, but that's not. The Rebbe is explaining now the three areas in which we use the goyrel. The Rebbe discussed the goyrel as it's used in the soul of the person, which is that level of the neshama. We talked about the avodah of the person that makes sure that that part of the soul is the way it should be. And we also told Ach begoyrel, Yachlek ha'aretz, how you divide the land by the goyrel. Hine, kol hadvarim sheba'olam yeshnam b'Yisrael. Everything that is in the world is also by a yid. So whatever olam shana nefesh. So you have something in the world, so that also applies. That also has by a yid, especially in the world when we talk about Eretz Yisrael. Ubefrat in the kol advarim sheba'olam yeshnam b'Yisrael is by a yid, is a microcosm of the world. So whatever we find in the world, we find also in the person. Especially the part of the world that has a special connection to the Yidden, that is Eretz Yisrael. That portion, when it takes place in Eretz Yisrael, the way we conquer Eretz Yisrael should also be represents how we conquer by the person, by a yid, how to conquer his and make Eretz Yisrael by himself. Why the connection to Eretz Yisrael in the world, specifically to a yid, is Mamer Chazal, as our sages of blessed memory said, that Kshabora ha'olam, when the Eibishter first created the world, Chilek ha'aros, he divided up the lands, Chulu, Ubachar be'eretz Yisrael, Chulu, and then he chose the land of Israel. Ubachar lechelko Yisrael, Chulu, and then he chose as his lot the Yidden. He chose his place is Eretz Yisrael, and for himself, the nation, the people, he chose the Jewish people. And therefore he said that Yavoyu, this is in the Tanchuma, that Yavoyu Yisrael Shabohu Lechelki, let the Yidden that came to my part, I took them as mine, the Yidden, Yinchalu es ha'aretz Shabohu Lechelki, and they should inherit the land that comes to my part. Shalochei nos nakodesh baruch hu es kol eretz Canaan laAvram Avinu. That's why Hashem gave the entire land of Canaan to Avram Avinu. Loyu ulizarei achrov, to him and to his seed that follow him, la'achuzas olam, for an eternal inheritance, because that's Hashem's land, and this is Hashem's people. The Eibishter gave his people the land that was his. Said, move on. So from this we can understand Shadvorim Shemeretz Yisrael Heim Behesem Ladvorim Shebi Yisrael, that the matters that are in Eretz Yisrael, they fit to the matters the way they are in the Jewish people. And also the other way around, it works also Shadvorim Shebi Yisrael, that the matters the way they're by Yidden, Heim Behesem, they fit Lahadvorim Sheberetz Yisrael, to the items that are in Eretz Yisrael. Umekivan Shebenegeya LaEretz Yisrael, since as it pertains to Eretz Yisrael, Bikibush Eretz Canaan, the way they conquered, they took Eretz Canaan, which was a land of Canaan, Lasis Oisa Eretz Yisrael, that transformed it into becoming Eretz Yisrael. There were these three items: the goyel ruach hakodesh v'seichel, the lottery in Al Pi Hashem, and the intellectual inyan L'Rav Tarbe Gomer V'Lama Tamid Gomer, which is the idea of L'Rav Tarbe V'Lama Tamid. How they move, and so it's understood. Gimel Dvorim Elu Yeshnam Yisrael. That by Yidden there's also these three items. Hainu Beruchni is the Yisrael. That's in the spiritual level of the Yisrael. Gam Zeh, the Rav Umaat. So, and also this idea of Rav Umaat, which is the logical, the dividing and conquering. Mekivon sheyeshne bechalukas eretz Yisrael, since that applies to the literal dividing of Eretz Yisrael, benegel haguf, as it pertains to the body, because the Yidden physically lived in Eretz Yisrael. They divided Eretz Yisrael, and we divided logically that it was given a portion according to their amount, shehu tofel, but the body is secondary to the neshama, and yet the body getting Eretz Yisrael, so definitely we have to say so in the spiritual conquering of Eretz Yisrael. So certainly, so much more so that this exists with regards to the more spiritual, which is Hanashama, which is the main, that there too we employ this idea of Rav Umaat in the service of Hashem in order to conquer the neshama, and the neshama should conquer and transform into Eretz Yisrael. So that is as far as the neshama goes. So basically we have it as far as the guf goes, because that is Eretz Yisrael, that deals with the guf. And we have it also in nefesh, we have it in yidden, because it's a kol shekain, since the guf use it. So certainly there is that level in the body. And we keep on shetachlis the Yisrael who. What's the ultimate goal of Yid is to serve Hashem. So we have to say that there is these three levels in the service of Hashem. The Tachlis, the Yisrael, who K'maymer Azal. The ultimate goal of a Yid is, as our sages of blessed memory say, Ani Nivreisi L'Shamash Eskoini, that I've been created to serve Hashem. How they move on Shekol Gimel Dvorim Hanal, that all of these three items of above Yeshnam Gambe Inyan de L'Shamash Eskoini also exist in the idea of serving Hashem, and B'avodas Hashem, in the service of Hashem, that we have that as well. And so in the soul, in the land, in the soul, and in the service of Hashem. Now, Inyan who, what is the idea? What are these three levels? Inspired by Mamorim the Meha Geula Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tmuz, explained in Mamorim Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tmuz, and the Rebbe specifically referencing also in the Kutei Torah over here, and in other places, that these days come as a continuation of the days of redemption. So when the Mimer was said, Israel yesh gimel darges, that in Yidden there's three levels. Mayon ganim, the well of the gardens. And then another madreg is Kimoshe Heim Bebechinas Be'er Mayim Chaim. They're a well of living waters. And as the Rebbe will explain, in a way, Be'er Mayim Chaim can be even higher than the Mayim Ganim, even though Mayim Ganim represents a higher level. It's a mayon. A mayon is a well, and this is a be'er. This is a not as high, but it can be mayim chayim. There's certain things that need mayim chayim. That's the two. Then the third one was k'moishem boyim, and as they come, al yidei ali be'er enulo, they were responding to that the be'er that Chavaru Asorim in the Parsha, in which they said that be'er, they said to the be'er, go up, which means it goes up the bechinas benoizlim min Lebanon, that they drip from the Lebanon, that's the level of the water, the mayim from drip from Lebanon. That's the other level. And v'noizlim hu miloshen mazel. So the noizlim min Lebanon comes from the lotion of mazel, and a mazel, the mazel shinyone lemailo mechochma ubina uinyan hagoyrel kemavur bekama mekomes. The mazel, the noizlim for mazel, that is higher than chochma ubina. That is the idea of goyrel, because that's the idea of that is beyond, higher than the reason and rationale kemavur bekama mekomes, as explained in many places. So what has been explained? So we have the three levels. We have Mayim Ganim, Be'er Mayim Chayim, and we have the level of Neizlim in Lebanon. And over there was explained Shemayon Ganim, the well of the gardens, Koyal and Neshamas K'moshem L'mayla. That refers to the souls as they're above, Koydem Sheyordu Lamata, prior, before they descended below. V'oz heim nikroyim, and then they are called b'shem b'nois Yerushalayim, the daughters of Yerushalayim. And their daughter, that's the name for the neshamas before they come down. What is b'nois Yerushalayim? She'Yerushalayim moire al shlemus hayira. They're daughters of Yerushalayim because they have the level of Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim points that they have the complete and full yira, whole yira. Ukadisa b'toysus, as Toysus says, brought down, she'Yerushalayim nikra al shem yira va'al shem sholem. That Yerushalayim is called fear, awe of Hashem, and also shlemus hayira sholem. Va'al shem sholem, it's Yerushalayim. And that's why we don't put in the yud. In some places, Yerushalayim is written without the yud. Because we don't give the yud in Yerushalayim, because the sholem is not, it means whole. Yira sholem, not shlim, but yira sholem, that's why there's no yud over there. Ben lamed lemem, in between the lamed and the mem. Therefore, the souls, the way they're above, they're called B'nois Yerushalayim, because then they are in wholesome and full yira. And that's the level before they come down, before the neshamas come down. That's the Mayan Ganim. On the level of the Be'er, Be'er Mayim Chayim, Koi al HaNeshamas K'moshi Yordu Lamato. The Be'er already refers to the Neshamas as they have descended below, Umuluboshes Begufim Gashmim, and they're dressed up in physical bodies. And that is Bedugmas HaBe'er Shenimtza Ba'omek HaOretz Chulu. This is similar to the well that finds itself in the depth of the earth. The neshama, the well, instead of being Mayim Ganim above, is now in the body. That means it's in the depth, in the Gashmius, just like physically the Be'er is deep in the ground. However, the fact that the Mayon comes down to the Be'er in the ground actually purifies the water when the water goes through the filtration system underground, and the water becomes at a higher level, and sometimes you can use this water for things you can't use a mayan for. This descent is for the purpose of an elevation. Through the work of a soul, specifically below, she elevates to a higher level than she was before she descended. And this is the meaning of Shchoira Ani V'Nova B'nei Yerushalayim. That although I'm black, it says in Shirashirim, I'm black, but I'm still beautiful. V'Nova, Shchoira Ani V'Nova B'nei Yerushalayim. Because while black is because it goes down into the world, into the Gashmis, the Gufim Gashmi, but then she becomes more beautiful through that descent. That's the Aliyah. This is the neshamas that descended below to the dress up in the body and nefshabamis. They speak and they say to the neshamas above, that are called the daughters of Yerushalayim. Hagam sheshchoirani, although I'm blackened, through the descent to this physical low world, this world, the low one. There is nothing lower than this world. To the extent in the idea of how much his blessed light is blocked. This is it's the block the most. There's nothing more blocked than what we experience in Olam Hazeh in this world. And that makes it black. That means that it's black. Hinase bebchinas shachrus shehu heder ha'ir legamri. And therefore she becomes in the level of dark blackness, which is a lack of totally light, is completely dark. It's shchoirani. But yet we say V'Nova, Shchoirani. It's through being Shchoirani. That's way it becomes beautiful. That she goes up to a higher level than the level that it was before, in which she was called B'nai Yerushalayim. She's V'Nova, she becomes more beautiful. And just like by the well going through the earth, the filtration system, it becomes more purified. Through the waters passing through the veins of the ground. And they block and obscure the water. It makes a refinement in the water till the extent that they become living waters. The passing through makes them into Mayim Chayim. Be'er Mayim Chayim makes them Mayim Chayim. This Mayim Chayim shu'ilu nailu yoser mibchinas Mayim, that is already a greater advantage than the Mayan itself. Could Isa be Mishnah, like we find in the Mishnah, in Mikvois Perek Aleph, Shadavke Mayim Chayim, that it's specifically the Mayim Chayim, as opposed to Mayon, Mashenkin Mayim, not the well itself, but only the Mayim Chayim. From the Be'er Metayrim as Gimel Tumois Achamuris, they can purify the three very serious tumas. Adle tumas mace, we find Venosanol of Mayim Chayim El Keli. How do we purify a mace? By using Mayan, using the Mayim Chayim. So we could even purify the tumas mace, Shehi Avi Avoisa Tuma, that is the father of the fathers of Tuma, the greatest level of Tuma, which is Tumas Meis. And yet, how is it purified? Not by a mayon, but from mayim chayim that comes from the be'er. Al derech zeh ukam b'negeil in the neshama. Similarly, it's also as it pertains to the soul. Shal yidei yiridos lemato, by descending below v'slapshusa beguf v'nefesh habahamis, and dressing up in a body and animal soul. Hamastirim al hamalimim mastirim al haneshama, they block and obscure the light of the neshama. Kishim izgalis ma'akisur v'hester al yidei ha'avodah. But so that's the descent that it comes down into the body, it becomes dark, and it's covered. When it is revealed from the cover and the obscurity, the pasuk says that the sorim, the avodah vayid, to digging, and the divyom, the digging and uncovering. The idea of digging and kriya is the idea of removing that is to remove the block and obscurity of the body and the animal soul, who block and obscure the light of neshama. That's the idea of the chafaru asorim. This is just like physically removing the dirt in order to reveal the be'er. Similar to the digging and the uncovering of the well, that is to remove the sand, the dirt, the earth, that blocks and obscures over the water. That's the avodah chafaru asorim karu nediveyom. Shabavodah Zu Shnei Inyonim. So there's two avodah. With the pasuk that he quotes it from, Chafaruha, there is first Sorim, and then there is Karuha Nidiveyam. And this is two levels in avodah of digging to uncover the neshama, that it shouldn't be obscured by the body and the nefesh habahamis that obscure and block it. So what is it two inyanim? Aleph inyan ha'hizbonenus. One is the idea, the avodah of digging is through meditation, reflection. Hanikra sorim. That is called sorim. Base, the second way to uncover is inyan hamidus shebelev. That is the emotion in the hearts. Hanikra, that's called the divyam. So the chafaruah sorim and korun divyam, through reflection, that is thought, through machshava, seichel, and then the heart is the divyam, the benevolent of the person. Shal yodam bo, but through the midas of the lave, through them you come literally l'sur meirav asay toiv b'poyel, to staying away from bad and doing good. That is through the nedivyam, through the midas. So when you accomplish to remove the offer, it's dafke through this, misalis haneshama l'mayla yoser, the neshama is elevated even higher than she was before she descended. They become, the neshamas becomes a level of mayim chayim, which is l'maylo yosem mebechinas mayim ganim. This is even higher than the level of mayim ganim, which it had originally. But to the extent shali deizet dafke, that dafke through this bo libchinas b'noizlim in Lebanon, get even the higher that it drips from the Lebanon, which is the level of higher. The etzem and neshama higher than seichel. Zehu shchoira ani v'nova. This is saying I'm black but beautiful. Shadafke ayidei shchoira ani nase v'nova. That dafke through the fact that it was black, that is the way I become nova. I become beautiful. El shakoyach sheyesh la neshama shebeguf la avodah zu. Where is the power for the soul within the guf to carry out this avodah of removal of the dust and to reach to the level of mayim ganim, to the level of the Islam in the bottom. So nimshach l'mayla lo mishorsha l'mayla, that comes to this, to the neshama from its root above. The zehu ha'amira l'bnois Yisrael. This is what we're saying to the bnois Yisrael, that the amira telling the to bnois Yerushalayim, shchoira ani v'nova b'nois Yerushalayim. I am black but beautiful, but b'nois Yerushalayim. I get it from the b'nois Yerushalayim. That the power that the neshama and the guf has to sort out that darkness, the blackness, to be beautiful, that is through the support that the neshama that is in the guf gets from the root above Anikra B'nai Yerushalayim, which is called B'nai Yerushalayim. So the B'nai Yerushalayim, the Shama in this world is saying to the B'nai Yerushalayim that the koyach that I get to be able to become B'nova, to sort out and remove all the obstacles, is from B'nai Yerushalayim. So now that we're saying that the beauty of the neshama becomes after working through the avodah and working through the helam v'hester, and you reveal the neshama, that's when it becomes v'nava beautiful. So it says in Heyu, Bazeh, move on. With this we understand Shashir Ali Be'er Enullah, this song of Ali Be'er Enullah, Amru Yisrael, L'Soif Mem Shona. The Yidden said it at the end of 40 years because they had to go through the 40 years and come to the edge of Eretz Yisrael, in where the work started to needed to be done. And be able to sort it out and to elevate to the higher level. So the Yidden said the Shira at the end of 40 years. Even though the Be'er was given to them as right in the beginning of the 40 years, as brought down in Rashi's commentary on the Torah, that that's when they started the Be'er, and then later on in the Chokas is they saying Ani Be'er, that same Be'er. Kisrael Shahoyu B'Midbar, because the Yidden that were in the Midbar before 40 years, Av Shahoyu Doir Deyo, even though they were a generation of knowledge, is explained at length in Kabbalah, Goydel Ha'ilui Shalahem, the great advantage of these people that lived in the day in the desert, Shahoyu Nishamas, the Olam Hamachshava, they were souls of the world of thought, Hainu Shagam, also as they descended here, they still were they were still on the level of the world of thought. So notwithstanding that they were on a high level, because of this itself, the bechinas be'er mayim chayim v'noizle min levonin. They did not have the advantage of a Be'er Mayim Chayim and that is unified, that is purified, as we said before, and also knows the milavonin. Ki ilui ze nase al yidei birur dvorim hagashmiyim davke. For this advantage that takes place through sorting out the physical matters. Specifically, you need physical matters to support, to be mevared. And this is why the song about was said by the generation that went into the land, at the end of the 40 years, before they entered the land of Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael, because what is Eretz Yisrael? Over there, in the desert, they were everything provided, the month, but in the Eretz Yisrael, you have to sow and plow, you're sorting out the physical matters. That's how you get that advantage. The advantage of the Be'er Ma'im Chaim and the advantage of Noizlim in Levonin. Toiva ha'aretz moed moed, as the pasuk says, the land is very good. Umikivan shedoir shenichnasu la'aretz amdu b'mesiras hanefesh. And since the generation that entered Eretz Yisrael, they stood with self-sacrifice. V'haratzin the kones leres tevrachava, and they wanted to go into that land. So they weren't in there yet, but they're standing at the edge and they want to go into the Chabra. Especially at the end of 40 years. They already had all necessary preparations that were necessary for it. There was already the capturing of Eretz Sichon V'Oig at that point. And there's a Ha'ara at 34, the Rebbe discusses that there was, at least Sichon was Nirbash and the Eibishter threw Sichon down, but the Medrash there, the whole discussion over there, the Rebbe brings down in the Ha'ara the Rebbe brings down. I'm dealing with the pop-ups. So the Rebbe says over there in the Medrash, the Lashon is Kiva Shalei Kibel Sichen Hipila Kodesh Baruch Hu Mipneim. So once he didn't accept it, the Eibishter threw him down. Those who hid in the caves, they wanted to kill them. Ramaz HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lahar Hashem hinted to the mountain and it crushed them. Shenamar Shibarto Rosh Yechuda Joshua Yisrael. Al Pizeh Botlo Meikora Hashayla Lama Pasal V'Sholim. Why did they start off and ask for peace? Acharish Nitmu Maris Laragas B'nai Yisrael. So basically, the Rebbe brings down from here that we see that it's already that time. I mean, Pashtus, it takes place later, but this is the Kibush already, which is Scholos Inyan HaKnisa Eretz Yisrael. This is the beginning of entering Eretz Yisrael. Loirak HaGchona V'HaGdoma LaKnisa Alagam Scholos HaKnisa. Not just a preparation, an introduction, but it's also the beginning of the entrance. Because there's many halachas which they're connected. That's why at the end of 40 years, there were these miracles that impacted Yidden where they should say the Shira. That was only after 40 years, after the Zman, that they were just about to come in to do the Avodah of Avodah Sabirurim. That is when they said Ali Be'er and Allah, that's when the Aliyah took place.